And it's probably a good time to provide an answer to that very common question. And you won't just be buying a camper van, you're going to be buying. This is the question that separates the great camper conversions. You've found it, the camper van that ticks all the boxes. It's stunning, the finish is incredible, and you can already imagine your first trip away. But before you get swept away by the dream, we need to talk about the reality. The most expensive campervan mistakes aren't about just one thing. They're about a number of big decisions inside the van. Buying a layout that's not right for you, or paying a premium for features that you're never going to use, can lead to massive regret, possibly a driveway ornament, and a lot of expense. Today, we're not talking about mistakes, we're talking about questions. The critical, honest questions that you must ask yourself before you buy. Get these right and you could find that perfect camper for your adventures, but get them wrong, and like I said, it could be a big mistake. You might be looking for a camper van now, or perhaps you're just putting together a spec list for a later date. And if you're going to be wandering around the Motorhome and Caravan Show, then you're definitely going to be wanting to bear some of these things in mind. Every single decision is going to come back to one master question. What do you need? And this leads to many, many other questions as well. Like, how are you going to be using the camper van? Let's start with the big one here. Is it just going to be for adventures at weekends? Or will it be your daily driver too? Using your van as a daily vehicle is a fantastic way of justifying that cost. A multi-purpose vehicle for the school run, shopping, or possibly work. But it will come with its compromises, as it does likely mean that you're going to be limited to a much smaller van, like a VW Transporter, Ford Transit, Renault Traffic, Toyota Alphard, to ensure that it fits in the normal parking spaces and obviously under the height barriers. If you're dreaming of a bigger van with more space, capable of taking even more of your home comforts away, then you might need to be running a second vehicle, as using a bigger camper as a daily driver might not be practical. The right vehicle can only be found by you. You have to decide this first, as it dictates everything else. You need to think about who will be going away in the van. Is it just you, a couple? You might be taking the children, or maybe the grandkids, and possibly a dog. Not all at the same time, or if it is, that certainly does mean that you're going to be needing a bigger van. Perhaps a VW Crafter, Mercedes Sprinter, the Ford Transit, like, the Swift Trackers, which I've seen before. There's going to be plenty of those options also at the show. And then next, if you're thinking about where you're going to be staying, do you prefer to be staying on campsites? Do you love the security and the facilities that a good campsite has? Hot showers, proper toilets, electric hookup every night. Perhaps you like to sit out by your fire pit or cooking outdoors. Maybe having a drink or two, knowing for certain that you're not going to be moved away. Alternative, are you an off-grid explorer, parking up in remote locations, surrounded by only nice views with no facilities for miles? If that's you, then you're going to be needing something that's totally self-contained, so you can be self-sufficient, everything on board your vehicle. Then the next question to ask yourself is, what are you going to be doing in the van? Are you going to be actively seeking adventures, walking, hiking, surfing, paddleboarding, cycling perhaps? You need to think where you're going to be storing all this gear, possibly including your wet gear after you've had a day out. Perhaps it means just getting away from it all and you just want to relax. Therefore, you're looking for just a comfortable seat and a bed to relax on. Maybe you're going to work from the van, so you're going to be needing to power all your portable office equipment. When will you be going away? Is it going to be in the winter? If it is, then you're perhaps going to be needing a heater. In the summer, you might also need air conditioning. How long are your trips going to be? Is it going to be a night? Is it going to be a weekend? Weeks away, or maybe longer? Your requirements might be a complete mix of absolutely everything which I've said, in which case you really are going to have to compromise. Keep your answers to some of these questions in mind as we go into some of these next questions. Can you live, sleep, and store everything comfortably? This seems obvious, but it's the number one reason that people end up selling the vans. The fact that they couldn't actually live with it. And as I said in my big mistakes video last week, hire some vans first. See what actually suits you. because not all campervans are the same. The layouts are different. The pop tops, the seats, the beds, the electrics, cooking, heating, it differs drastically. So let's start with a bed. If you can't get a good night's sleep, then every trip is just going to be miserable. And I'm not talking about noises coming from the rocking van next door, or maybe the swoosh bang of the doors in the night. I'm talking comfort. Don't just look at these beds, test it. Lie down on that mattress. Is it going to be comfy enough for you? If it's a rock and roll bed, lie down on it and see if you can feel any of those lumps and bumps that can often be there. And it's probably a good time to provide an answer to that very common question. Which is the best mattress topper? The answer is the one that suits you. With the solution coming from testing them out, try a Duvalet, try a Naps, a Panda, or any of the other popular recommendations which you get, and see what you prefer. The same goes for the pop top. You need to climb up there. Ask permission first, of course. Is the mattress just a wafer thin piece of foam sat on a plank of wood, or is it a nice sprung bed base with a proper mattress? Get up there, lie down and test it out. And just as important is actually, can you physically close that pop top? Some are much easier to close than others. Small people may struggle to reach some of the handles, or that need to actually balance the roof when you're pulling it down, and you've got to balance it so it don't pop back up or fall down before you actually pull in that canvas. Ask the converter, can you have a go at closing it? I've got lots of videos coming soon to help you with this, talking about a wide range of components, so do subscribe if you don't want to miss out on those. Now let's talk about the storage. This is just as important as the bed. A tidy van can be a comfier van, and that means everything actually has its place. Open every cupboard, look behind the seats. Is there a decent amount of space so you can store your clothes, your food, your camping chairs? Where is the table? Is that within the sliding doors, saving that space? How much space is there behind that bed? Some of these beds can often leave very little storage behind it. Have a look and see what suits you. You need to ask yourself where you can store all your gear, your paddleboard, your walking boots, maybe your wet coats. A van without enough practical storage and no plan becomes an uncomfortable nightmare. Don't forget though, it's really easy to extend your van with an awning. And some people do this purely for the storage, where others might use it for sleeping. Some have a blow-up sofa in there so you can just chill out and relax on it. An awning really is a brilliant solution for extending that living space, which can also house the next thing I'm going to talk about, the shower and the toilet. And this is where the answer to where will you stay is absolutely critical. If you are a dedicated campsite user, then ask yourself, are you willing to sacrifice a huge wardrobe or a comfortable seating area for a shower that you're probably never going to use? A portable toilet that tucks away in a cupboard gives you that emergency option without permanently stealing your living space. I've seen people recently saying about some of the bigger vans, it hasn't got a shower. Yeah, that's because the person who actually designed it knew exactly what they wanted, and because they knew that they were going to be staying always at campsite facilities where they had the access to the shower and the toilets, they didn't need one on board. But if you are only going off-grid, then that completely changes everything. A fixed toilet will then become a requirement, and the simple shower almost becomes essential. Many rib beds can store the portable toilet underneath them. There are also some popular conversions which have a toilet in the van when they've got the rear opening pop top, so it's kind of a little bit of a cubicle as well. There will probably be quite a few of these at the show in a few weeks. And regarding a shower, it doesn't have to be that full internal cubicle. Many conversions now do have that external shower point, which means it can be used for like washing your wetsuits or sand off your feet, cleaning your muddy walking boots so you're not bringing all that mess inside. And some of the vans now actually include hot water as standard, so you can have a hot shower or do your washing up with hot water. Another question, how will you cook and power your travels? These aspects can be really important. Are you going to be cooking in your van? And if you are, how? And it brings up that huge decision. Do you need gas, or are you looking for a gas-free conversion? An onboard gas system with a fixed hob is very traditional with campervans, And it's really convenient just to pull over at the side of the road so you can make yourself a quick cup of tea. It's been around for many, many years and it suits a lot of people. I recently spoke to Kenny at EcoWagon, so do have a look at that video to see what his thoughts were, which I thought were quite interesting. You know, the alternative is going gas-free, using an induction hob that runs off your electrical system, but that does require a much more powerful and expensive electrical system. We're talking big lithium batteries and an inverter. That's certainly something else you need to be considering when you're looking at these vans, but more talk on electric in a second. But what about the kitchen itself? Is a full fixed kitchen required? Or could a removable kitchen pod be the answer? Maybe you won't be cooking in the van, and a removable stove or a barbecue perhaps would be for you. What flexibility do you need? You know, some conversions have microwaves, but would it actually be used? Or could that space be better utilised for storing some more of your essentials? Think about the situation. Think about how you would use it. You know, I've heard people say, I have this, but I've never used it. Or I wish I had that because I'd use it if I had it. You know, it's completely dependent on what you would use. And that's why hiring a van, testing it out and seeing what you would like and what you don't like. And then you can suit it perfectly, exactly to what you want. Now let's talk about that power system. Do you need a huge electrical system? Or will a simple setup do? Again, it completely depends on your use. You know, if you're a campsite user, so you're always going to be on hookup, then maybe it's just something basic which you need for your lights and maybe charging your phone. You know, a simple leisure battery might be what you need for that. Something that can just charge whilst you drive. But if you're going gas-free with an induction hob, or you're an off-grid digital nomad, so you need to be running your mobile office, perhaps you've got an e-bike that you need to be charging regularly, then you may be needing to invest heavily here. You could be talking large lithium batteries, a powerful inverter, and a good solar setup. But if you only ever stay on hookup, you're not going to need that. Don't let somebody else's system that doesn't match your lifestyle determine what you get in your van. You need to understand what you need. You know, for example, that fridge. A fixed compressor fridge that runs 24/7 is a game changer for long trips. But it could be a power drain on your van. You know, if you mainly do just weekends, then a high quality cool box and a few frozen ice packs could actually just be all you need. You know, these things just need to be thought through. When you're looking at these camper vans for sale, you need to be looking at the power systems. Even if you don't want that big power, you need to be looking at the components. Is the battery lithium? And if it's not, and then you're going to be thinking about upgrading to that later, then you might need to actually overhaul the whole electrical system because it might not be suited. Is the solar? How does the 240 volts work? Is it on hookup only, or is there an inverter? You know, perhaps you don't need that full off-grid setup, and a portable power station might actually be the right fit for you. This isn't a one-size-fits-all. And will the camper van be comfortable all year round? A van is a metal box. You know, in the summer it can be an oven, and in the winter it could be a freezer. Proper insulation does help regulate this temperature, and more on that subject in the coming months. But more importantly, it manages the moisture. Your breath creates moisture, cooking creates moisture, and without insulation to keep the surfaces warm and the ventilation to get that damp air out, that moisture can turn your van into a very damp and mouldy place. Hence, most conversions are insulated and have the proper ventilation. The pop top is meant to be in habitation mode when in use, and most have that vent at the very top of it. That is, of course, an NCC requirement. And you can see more of that in the video where I talked about the difference between NCC approval and also type approval. Along with the insulation, do you need a heater in the van? Those cold months, or perhaps those cooler evenings in the shoulder months, might well get a little bit chilly. So which sort of heater is the right one for you? You know, your options could be dependent on the answers to the other questions. If you have an underslung gas tank, then a Propex heater might be your answer. If your van runs on diesel, then perhaps a diesel heater is for you. Or perhaps if you've got a hybrid or only ever stay on electric hookup, then an electric heater could be your choice. And then there's other aspects such as how do you control the heater? Do you want to be able to program the heater so it comes on at certain times? Or are you happy with basic functionality? So it just comes on whenever you twist the knob. And it's not just the cold you need to be thinking about. You know, what if you go into warmer climates and staying in hot temperatures? Then maybe you might want an air conditioning system. Not particularly too common in smaller vans, but it is expected. We are going to see more of this, so do watch this space. You know, the next question is looking at where has the money been spent? This is the question that separates the great camper conversions from the ones that just look great. You know, you see a van with stunning leather seats, fancy mood lighting, and expensive looking features. But where has the money really been spent? It's easy to be dazzled by aesthetics, but the real value lies in the quality of the components, which you can't often see. Ask the converter or the seller of the vehicle, what are the leisure batteries? What make is the diesel heater? Who manufactured the pop-top? You know, find out, are they cheap, are they budget items, or are they high quality from reputable brands? Cheap kitchen units and work surfaces, cheaper bed systems, cheap pop-tops, basic spec vans with lower powered engines and manual gearboxes aren't high spec, but you could be fooled into thinking they are when they've got a nice body kit and some large alloys. You know, there is nothing wrong with this spec as long as it's exactly what you want and you're paying the appropriate price for it. And importantly, you're not being fooled into buying something which it actually isn't. One brand new £65,000 van could have a great camper spec, a sprung bed for the pop-top, a rib bed, Victron electrics, a lithium battery, underslung gas tank, heater, tailgate, and twin captain seats. Yet be completely standard on the outside, albeit with all the right approvals and be multi-caravan registered. Another could be builder's spec barn doors and twin passenger seat, AGM battery, cheap bed, cheap pop-top, far less camper but has some lovely wheels and a great body kit. A panel van still on the logbook. And then you could have another van which could be £90,000 with a great spec camper, off-road wheels, four-wheel drive, automatic gearbox, enough electric power for a week, Wi-Fi signal practically anywhere on the planet. But which is best? And that's for you to understand the differences and buy what exactly suits you. So before you get carried away how the van looks, look at the detail. You have to think carefully how you're going to be using it. Who will go in it? Where will you go? What are you going to do with it? And look where all that money has been spent. Ask yourself these questions. Test everything yourself. Lie on the beds, open the cupboards, close the roof. And you won't just be buying a camper van. You're going to be buying the perfect van for you, the perfect van for all your adventures. I've got loads of individual component videos coming soon. If you're still in the early stages of buying a van, then I did cover a lot more in the part 1 when I talked about some massive mistakes that some people can make. You know, I've got loads of videos coming soon about various different aspects of camper vans, including lots of videos from the show as well. You know, do give it a like if you have liked this video and let me know in the comments what you want to see and what you think the most essential thing is when you're looking for a camper van. Don't make the mistakes that you could see in this video. Thanks for watching, take care, and I hope to see you soon.